Universal wireless. What is it and how will it transform the enterprise world? On this episode of Connected with Laurie, you will hear from Arthur King from Corning, an industry expert who's going to deliver a prediction of where we will be in the future of technology. I'm your host, Laurie Caruso, and welcome to Connected with Laurie. Arthur King, it is so wonderful having you on the show. Thank you so much for joining. How are you?
I'm awesome.
You are awesome.
You
look awesome.
Holiday. I mean, what could be better?
What could be better? So, wow, last time I saw you, year and a half ago, I didn't see all the hair. I'm seeing a lot of hair right now. It looks great.
Well, with COVID, there hasn't been an opportunity to get a haircut. Here in Washington State, the procedures are so onerous, and we live far enough out in a rural area that I've decided that, the first event I have to go to, I'll probably get a haircut then.
Are you sure about that? I don't know. I'd have a hard time letting go.
Oh, yeah, no.
Yeah, no. Speaking of events, do you have one planned this year? Are we going to see you at ConnectX? Where are we going to see you?
We're looking at Bixie.
Bixie, okay. When's that?
Yeah, Bixie. And then I think a lot of our people will show up at ConnectX in Florida. So Florida is really attractive because of the fact that either the pandemic has passed them by or the rules are less stringent. So it feels a little bit better.
Feels a little bit better. So I know we have a lot to talk about on this podcast. I mean, obviously, when I think of you, I think of my influencer in the industry, my king. And I've never actually interviewed a king on the show before. That's pretty cool. Arthur King.
I never asked my mom whether it was a joke or not.
Well, I was going to ask you who actually ended up naming you. Because, I mean, when I see your email, it's like King Arthur. It's very cool.
Well, the name is via the parents, obviously, and it's to honor the different grandparents and uncles and stuff. So
I love it. It is so fitting. It's so cool. It's very cool. So let's talk about. I mean, obviously, where we are today. You've been in the industry for a very long time, and with that, I mean, you've been in different places, different companies. What's formed and shaped you? I mean, you have done so much. And I'm curious, where did you get that start from?
During my career, I've been on a quest to have fun.
Quest to have fun, like we're gonna have today.
Well, it's I started out in radio, at Motorola, working on mobile radios and then climbing towers and that kind of thing on repeaters and base stations, a long time ago. And faked my way into computers. And on the communications side, in my last role before I came into the cellular industry, I was running architecture and global operations at a shoe company in Portland. And the things that we were looking for, we were looking to kind of create a magic user experience where things just worked for our employees without a lot of intervention on their part. Arthur C. Clarke had this, his 3 laws, and one of them is any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. And we were kind of pursuing this kind of magic where you opened your laptop and you were on the corporate enterprise without having to do anything from an intervention perspective, but it was still highly secure from a security perspective. We wanted people's mobile devices to just work. We wanted, a lot of things around, treating our employees not like users, but as customers. When George Carlin said, that there's only 2 things in the world that are users: drug users and computer users.
That's so true. That's a good point.
And within our architecture organization, we really talked about our employees as customers, so that we users has like this, it gives you like a psychological insulation from making people happy or seeing them, in a better light. So we really were trying to call them our customers and figure out what we need to do from a customer satisfaction perspective. It was kind of a crazy philosophy, but it worked out pretty well.
It's actually brilliant. It keeps your customers happy, so to speak, or the employees, so they work harder for you.
No, it's not that. It's when you take friction out, people can work without having to think about doing a lot of the ditch digging and minutia. It's like people can just focus on their jobs instead of IT tasks. We had I ended up on a Macintosh computer, but via a circuitous route. So at some point in our organization, I was complaining. I did a lot of the end user facing work on the infrastructure, and I was telling my leadership, it's awful the way the iPad works and the iPhone. We have to do all these login steps, and we have to do this and that. And most of my colleagues were saying, that's not an issue. It's just a password, And when our team was rewarded with iPads, there's 9 of us in architecture, and when our team was rewarded with iPads, all of a sudden, everyone's going, "Wow, this is a problem. We should fix it," because I got to experience it firsthand. And I ended up on a Macintosh because my boss came to me and handed me a MacBook Air and said, "You have till the end of the day to be off Windows." And I have 4,000 users here that make all the money for the company, and and they're all in Macintoshes, and they're enraged about our infrastructure.
Wow.
And whatever you see that needs to be fixed, I have the budget to fix it.
Wow.
So
And he gave it to you because you knew you were going to fix it.
Well, it was more identify the problems, and not just identify them, but assume things that are problems instead of, oh, that's just another login. That's okay. They know that's unacceptable. What do we need to do to fix the issue?
Wow. So let's talk about today. You're at Corning now. What are you doing at Corning? How are things going?
Good. We've got our new Everon product line is launched, and
Very good.
we're growing that out, and really starting to have a lot of conversations with people around this notion of universal wireless, and the fact that networks are going so fast now, and have enough capacity. You have an opportunity to potentially unwire the people, and that's both from a cellular and a Wi-Fi perspective, and really get everyone on wireless, and kind of change the world for the all the people that are walking around with computers.
It's interesting because I always say, we think we're not wired, right? I mean, we think that our cell phones aren't wired, but when you look at it, everything still connects to wires somewhere. So it's true. I mean, are we ever going to actually break up with a wire? We are? That's going to happen?
No. No. I mean that's so when you look at things like, we're going so fast now to link rate that we can, we really have to, we're really justifying the installation of optical infrastructure, because the amount of people that are going to connect to the same kind of shared access point are going to go so fast, they're going to overwhelm the copper infrastructure. So you get to this place where you still have a finite amount of capacity on the radio infrastructure, and almost unlimited capacity on the transport infrastructure on the back end. So what we're really doing is just, you get people onto the transport, the fixed network, or the wired infrastructure as fast as possible, so that you really you make the wireless experience very good by having smaller cells.
Wow, that's impressive. So how do you feel? Is it going where you want it to go? I mean, obviously we just going through a pandemic. We've had some setbacks, some delays, I would imagine. How are you guys holding up with that?
The business is plugging along, and in 2020 there's some counterintuitive things that happened. We saw a lot of projects accelerate, And they accelerated for the reason that the building owners said, I have the budget, and I was going to pay for my contractors to come in and build out the DAS or build out the small cell network or do this work nights and weekends, but now I can do it during the middle of the week. So since my project costs are going way down due to the change in the labor model, let's go for it. So we actually saw a lot of projects get pulled forward in big buildings and also in educational institutions due to the fact that the cost model changed on the deployment labor.
Wow. Yeah, we definitely saw, I mean, the changes. Talk about who would have seen this coming, right? Just to see how there are so many, positives that came out of this, even though it was so hard, having to stay at home, seclude yourself, you're changing the way you're doing life and business. But there are some positives that came out of it, I see, including that for sure.
Well, on the universal wireless concept, we on the Corning side had moved into a fresh building in August of 2019, and as and just really adopted that as the operating model for that building when we deployed. So we didn't have any cables to cubicles, workspaces, that kind of thing. We just had wireless infrastructure, and then cables to selective things in areas where stuff that didn't move was located at, like conference rooms and that kind of thing. And when the pandemic hit, it was actually very easy for us to do work from home because people were already wireless. They were already either on a cell phone or they were on a soft phone that was installed in their computer, and they didn't they didn't require what happened in a lot of other corporations where it's like, OMG, business continuity, we need to provision 1,000 laptops and 1,000 cell phones and accounts payable and accounts receivable, all these people that sat at desks all day long at work, all of a sudden all had to work from home. And because we had already kind of made that move to this universal wireless, for us to pick up and go home was far less painful than it was for organizations that were operating in this knowledge workers have laptops and desk-bound people just have a desk computer and a desk phone. And it took universal wireless and pulled it a number of years into the future, because we don't think people are going to go back to fixed desk phones and fixed desk computers, because what happens if wave 3 of the pandemic reoccurs and we really have to go back home. So we've made some irreversible changes to the compute environment that the actual people use, and it lends itself to this model. And the other thing that's happened with the pandemic is we've had a opportunity to prove a lot of things wrong, or a lot of things that could never be tested in the past, because it was impossible to test. You couldn't send the whole world home and to try things out. And the pandemic, so in many ways, in a lot of organizations, you have people that are very conservative about certain things and have certain beliefs, and they can be a barrier to change. And what's happened with the pandemic is we've had the opportunity to test things out. So let me see. Number one thing, remote working can't work for all. Well, yeah, ta-da.
Voila, here it is. It's working.
We have demonstrated that at scale across the country.
Nice.
And with the communications infrastructure that we have with LTE and broadband, it is so amazing that we were able to pull this off globally, because I don't think it could have been done 10 years ago. I mean, my hat's off to everyone in the industry who has built out all the cellular infrastructure and all the broadband infrastructure and the fiber to the home, and everything that's been done as just part of our normal communications evolution. When crunch time happened, oh my God, it all worked, and it didn't collapse on itself, even with the huge load we put on it. I mean, imagine a global snow day that lasts a year.
It's really true. We're in it. We're on it. And, I'm curious. It's so intriguing to me to understand that, it was almost like this was positioned for the reason, and here we are now all working from home and successfully doing it, like you said. And, I'm curious too, first of all, how do enterprise customers, how do property managers take part in this? If it does happen or we have to change again. And I'm curious, I want to get into that. And I also want to hear a little bit more about what Corning's doing to help the customers out there to do so. But I'm going to take a short break and we're going to go to a commercial break here. We'll be right back after these messages. Universal Wireless is a breakthrough approach to satisfying the communications needs for everyone. The time is here to build indoor networks differently with Corning's Everon product family. For more information, please visit www.corning.com/CLT-HQ to explore the Universal Wireless in Corning's Charlotte headquarters. Vertical Bridge REIT, LLC, is the largest private owner and operator of communications infrastructure with locations in the United States. The company owns, operates, and master leases over 307,000 tower, rooftop, billboard, utility attachment, convenience stores, and other site locations in support of wireless network deployments. Based in Boca Raton, Florida, Vertical Bridge was founded in 2014. The senior management team at Vertical Bridge has over 300 years of collective experience in tower infrastructure and related sectors. For more information, please visit www.verticalbridge.com. Welcome back. So excited again to have Art King here on the show today. Before the show, we were talking about the pandemic and what some of the challenges we're seeing with enterprise customers and, they're people working remotely. And Art, I am curious, what are you seeing for challenges, perhaps, that you see your customers faced with?
Well, I see it in my own organization. People are aching to be back together, to have lunch together, to really, the social environment of work and the tribal nature of people is, not to be underestimated. Even though I've been a remote worker since 2012, I had enough time on the road and enough time, meeting with people at events and going to our HQ and everything that I always felt plugged in and part of the organization. And, the permanent work from home, in my personal opinion, I think can be culturally damaging. And, I was talking to a buddy of mine over at, a firm yesterday, and he said that, innovation is suffering because people aren't having all the serendipity, accidental discussions because, you have planned meetings and you talk about what you're supposed to talk about on the agenda for the meeting, and then you conclude and go, and you're not sitting next to each other and overhearing something and going, hey, I've got a solution for that. You're not sitting next to each other and or, running into someone over coffee and, having a deeper discussion, or even talking to colleagues in other departments and understanding what's going on in the organization and that kind of thing. So, the whole kind of tribal web that we have within, a corporation has been disrupted. And, in many ways for the health of companies, people really need to get back together and, kind of reform the environment that's been disrupted by COVID.
Yeah, absolutely. There's no question about that. I mean, granted, technology has played a big part in trying to get people back. I mean, I don't know what we would do today without the likes of, using my laptop for this, what we're doing right now. I can see you. I feel great about it. I, feel like I've, been hanging out with you all year now because now that I see your hair's grown and you look amazing. But yeah, I mean, what do you think? How has technology played a part for us? Has there been other parts of technology that we're seeing kind of make a play?
Well, just, everything that we've got from a communications infrastructure, from the ability to store and share large files, the humble email, all the tools that we use that easily extend to your home, and up to and including, tools like Zoom, WebEx, et cetera, that allow you to have, FaceTime. I mean, thank God we don't have to wear masks when we're on Zoom. It is. It's personally disconcerting to me to not be able to see a person's visual expression and just see eyes. Well, it really it throws me off because you can't tell whether someone's being sarcastic. When they say something snarky with a grin. You can't see things, and I did a visual startup in the late '90s during the dot-com days, and one of the things that we did, we used as part of our research was something like half of all of our interaction together. Half the interaction is visual. Another 30% of it is audio and intonation, and only 20% of it is data and stuff. So when you get down to things like email and that kind of thing, it's just a mechanism for communications. And there's so many people that you've seen the huge misunderstandings that happen when someone says something in email, and then everything blows up, and then people are apologizing to each other later. But it's like the whole human factors and how we are and how we've evolved over time. The face-to-face interaction, the building of trust, the smiles, nods, that kind of thing. It's so critical to from a relationship and discussion perspective.
Yeah, and I think also too, just seeing what we've gone through, things have been sped up. I mean, we might not be doing the same thing or seeing the same thing technology-wise if we hadn't gone through that pandemic. Because
Absolutely.
Yeah, I was going to say, and you even mentioned it. Things, you had to do it now. You have no choice. Universal wireless, no choice.
Yeah, well, and because we've been pulled into the future, there's a lot of opportunity now for enterprises to adapt and adopt it, both in existing structures and in new construction, and it's something where if you have essentially a brownfield building, something that's already built out and exists, universal wireless potentially is just as simple as making sure that you have robust cellular coverage for the carriers that you need, and great Wi-Fi service, and you can really start walking away from a lot of the costs around cabling and maintenance and that type of thing. But you can also start walking away from the very large Ethernet switches and things that you have in your closets and stuff. In our Charlotte headquarters, the new one that we occupied in August of 2019, the building was cabled up with 460 optical fibers. That's the cable plant, and it came from one communications kind of equipment room to throughout the building. So we changed the equation, and I look at the madness sometimes within CRE, where gut and remodel, tear it down to the studs, and that includes tearing out all the structured cabling and everything the tenant had in there, and the next tenant moves in and puts the cabling back in to their standards, and then 5 years later, gut and remodel, out goes the cabling and in goes new cabling. And it's just, what if the building was just wireless, where the tenant would move in and put up system furniture, paint the walls, hang the paintings, put the potted plant in, and go. So there's a potential for both cost savings, green initiatives, other things. That imagine the building had Wi-Fi and DAS and literally a support mechanism. And I wouldn't envision this happening in like HQ locations. The but I would envision branch offices and regional offices where an IT organization would just spec in, I want Wi-Fi and I want cellular from carriers X, Y, and Z, and you know that's what I'm looking for, and have the leasing agent get space, and it would get you out of the networking business remotely. Because guess what? In the last year, we've proven that we can use public network infrastructure persistently, and the business stays up and running. We can prove that we can be on cellular all the time. We can be on Wi-Fi all the time. And it's all public network infrastructure. So, what do they say? The end result of every product at the maturest stage is going to be a service. And, for voice, do we need an enterprise PBX, or do we need a small set of voice services for select applications, but all the other employees can be on a well-run network with another 180 million people on it, AKA one of the big carriers? So there's a lot of questions to be asked now, and a lot of valid questions that have been surfaced by the pandemic, and by the fact that we've been able to successfully do all this on public infrastructure. What does the future look like now that the underlay network, which used to be a private network, but now the underlay network underneath all your encryption and all your tunnels and all your protection, if the internet's good enough for that in the majority of America, where do private networks stand, and how does it all fit in, and what do you actually need during this evolution?
Well, that would be very competitive, I have to say, given the fact that, property owners, commercial real estate, they're looking to get tenants back in the space. And the tenants and the occupying people are saying, why? Or you have to pay all of this exorbitant money. Plus, we have to build the infrastructure on the 12 floors that we occupy. Why would we do that? And let's look at that. But now, all right, well, that building's already lit up. I can just plug and play. I can just put my people in, concentrate on making it pretty and working, and not have to build the technology. That's actually pretty spot on.
Well, you look at, the cost of people is the dominant part of the equation in most organizations. And, if you can pay a few bucks a month for a network that has support behind it in a building, it means the IT organization doesn't have to sign up to do anything. You can call for help locally, or, whatever. But it's working from home and demonstrating you can do all this over public networks for the last year. It asks the question of, outside of your main HQ, which is densely populated and high touch, do your regional and branch offices really need a private network connection from corporate and its own private network in the building? Or do you just need a good, a good Wi-Fi infrastructure and a good cellular infrastructure that are well maintained, and just go forward from there, and buy it as part of your real estate transaction?
Buy it as part of your real estate transaction. I love that. That's future. Yeah. So where else do you see us going in the future as far as technology is concerned? I mean, are you worried that, we're not going to get out of this pandemic anytime soon and things could change?
This pandemic will pass by. We had polio in the 50s. We had the Spanish flu in the late teens, the last century. So that stuff comes and goes, but ultimately, I think we'll snap back to kind of the way things were before. The bricks and mortar and shopping and restaurants still have a long way to go to recover. They've taken a significant amount of damage, but retail, there's still going to be a place for going and shopping and buying things and immediacy and that type of stuff. You can't do it all online, and I haven't been to a restaurant since this thing started, and I'm aching to go out and have something, delicious cooked by someone else.
Yes. I can actually say, Art, I went out last night to dinner. I walked in, not one mask wearer. Everybody is maskless right now. At least in my state, it's turning, and it's turning for the better. And, I feel like there's so much improvement. I mean, vaccinations have been happening, but I saw like everybody was happy last night. It was really cool.
Yeah, no, I'm seeing, a severe drop in the amount of people wearing masks. It's starting to become a minority in this area, and it's a good thing. It means that people are comfortable and getting back to normal and that kind of thing. And we're pretty, human beings are pretty resilient, and we'll get back to normal over time.
Yes, we will. All right, we're going to change it up. And I'm going to start with you because I know you're so much fun. I have to ask maybe a few questions, maybe silly at best, but we have to have fun, don't we?
Of course.
That's the way it goes. So we need to make sure we keep it fun. So you live on a farm.
Yes.
Is that where you are right now?
Yes.
And what do you raise on that farm? Do you have sheep?
It's my wife's operation. I do construction projects on the weekend and maintenance and stuff, but it's my wife's operation. She raises South African breed of sheep called Dorpers.
Really?
Yep, and we raise them for breeding stock. So she sells live animals to other people who want them for their genetics. South Africa being an arid climate, these sheep they gain more weight from birth to market time on the same amount of feed as other breeds of sheep. So, obviously that's more valuable because, they're kind of sold by the pound when it comes to the meat processing.
Wow. I'm glad I asked. Do you have one particular pet sheep that you've named?
No.
No. Okay, well, let's go to the next question. All right, so I'm curious. Two things, because I look at you as like King of Das, kind of, right? Arthur King of Das.
King of what?
King of Das, but King of Technology, we should say. Let's do that instead, right? So where do you think we're going to be? I have 4G, 5G. We're talking about 6G, right? We're already talking about 6G. Where are we going to be for G in 2050? Quick, go. Your time.
Okay. Each G takes 10 years.
Each G takes 10 years. Look at you. I knew you would know this.
So we'll be at 8G?
8G by 2050.
Yeah.
God, that's insane. All right. Do you think we'll have cellular coverage on the moon when we finally go to the moon?
I think Nokia already put LTE on the moon before.
So we're already there.
Yeah, it's already done. And there's been no subscriber complaints either.
Art King, you're amazing. I am so happy to have some fun on the show with you today. Thank you so much for joining.
You're most welcome. It's been my pleasure, and hopefully we said some useful stuff in between the fun.
In between the fun, but we're going to have you back on the show. We're going to do another podcast. We're going to get more into detail about technology for sure. I always have to make sure you're part of that.
Alrighty.
Thanks so much, Art.
Take care. Bye.
Interested in being part of our show or advertising on our podcast? Contact us at info@fifthgenmedia.com for more information. We'd love to be a part of your success.